Chapter 866, Expert of the King's Teachings. Finally, Lu Shu had a chance to visit the central area of the town. Although the floor was muddy and the ground tiles were laid in a haphazard arrangement, at least the environment looked more civilized. In the countryside where Zhang Weiyu lived, Lu Shu could hardly see anyone else. Most of the people there had yielded to the pressures of life and sold their farms, their land, and even themselves in exchange for a better life, and Zhang Weiyu was among the few exceptions. Over time, Tianjing town had become the landlord's farmland. There were not many food stalls along the streets. Most of them were business ones. Inside, the workers had marks on their body, a knife for the Yu families, a gold ingot for the Lins, and a fish for the Zhangs. The aristocrats had an even more complicated symbol, which consisted of two criss-crossing swords. Major landlords were only allowed to have one symbol, but the aristocrats could have two. The hierarchy was apparent in every detail of their daily life. However, it was said that the original symbol for the Lins was not the gold ingot. They had changed it because when Zaifu, the South Lord of Heaven, gifted the Lins with a gold ingot after he stayed at their backyard during his land inspection. From this story, Lu Shu learned that the family symbol was not permanent. Thus, it required a fair bit of art skills to design a good family logo. Moreover, the Lins was pretty good at toadying up to powerful people. Yu Dai invited Lu Shu for a horse ride, but was rejected. As a result, she walked the horse together with Lu Shu. It was then that Lu Shu suddenly realized that Yu Dai was only 3 to 4 centimeters shorter than him. She had attractive curves as well. In this world, ability was the only thing that mattered. Despite the landlord's high social status, their luxurious gowns were tight-fitting and specially designed for combat effectiveness. As she walked, Yu Dai tended to lean towards Lu Shu subconsciously, almost forcing him off the road. All of the workers in the roadside stalls sized them up secretly as they walked past the town. After a few days, the entire Tianjing town knew that the landlord of the Yu family was interested in a commoner and that no one was allowed to mess with him. Furthermore, the Yu landlord sent him presents every day, and rumor had it that he was rather handsome. In fact, stories like this had happened before among the landlords. They liked to exploit every means possible to get the commoner woman or man they wanted, and they would even trade with other landlords for their slaves. However, in those cases, the landlords would usually force the commoners to obey them and leave them with little or no room for negotiation. But this one sounded more like a romance story. Yet, Lu Shu found it similar to a typical romance story plot where a powerful figure fell in love with a small fry. There was discrimination among the slaves as well. The more powerful ones looked down on the weaker ones, and those who received cultivation techniques from their landlords despised those who could only do the chores in their family business. Those in the business despised the farmers, and the farmers despised the commoners. Logically, the slaves had a lower social standing than the commoners, but they disagreed. They disliked the commoners' dignity and pride, as they believed that they were equally incapable of earning a decent living. People like Zhang Weiyu, who would rather struggle in their miserable lifestyle than to give up their freedom to someone else, was like a stark contrast to the lack of character of the slaves. In fact, all of the slaves in Tianjing town regarded Zhang Weiyu as a pain in their ass. That was how this society worked. As a matter of fact, the hefty taxes was not the only reason that contributed to Zhang Weiyu's difficult lifestyle. He would have led a better life if only that were the case, given that he was free from the burdens of family. Nevertheless, many slaves liked to destroy his farmland when they happened to walk past. Lu Shu had learned about it from Yu Dai, who admired Zhang Weiyu for his perseverance and positive attitude towards life even when his crops were destroyed by the slaves. In the worst-case scenario, he would not mind eating tree roots to keep himself alive. When Yu Dai told Lu Shu about that, his impression of Zhang Weiyu had changed as well. His stories were reminiscent of Lu Shu's childhood, when he refused to steal like the other kids from the orphanage even when he was about to be starved to death in the outside world. The Yu family had a spacious backyard. When Lu Shu followed Yu Dai inside, the slaves guarding the mansion studied him curiously. There was a faint look of disapproval on their face. In their impression, Lu Shu was merely a weak, incapable boy with a pretty face that attracted their landlord. Now that they saw him in person, they realized that his skin was indeed very fair one. As Lu Shu walked in, he asked, "Can you tell me more about the old king of gods?" Yu Dai shook her head and said, "The old king was a mysterious man and all of our knowledge about him is from unofficial historical documents. It's said that someone had once advised the old king to set up a department specially dedicated to documenting his daily life and his history, but the old king refused. He said that his life needed neither comments nor records and he did not want to be documented in any written form or whatsoever, because words and books are insufficient as tools of expression. As a result, a profession has formed just to study the poems left by the old king, in an attempt to peek into his life and his philosophies. Those people are called experts of the king's teachings." "Oh well." Lu Shu was amused. Experts of the king's teachings? It would truly be absurd if they could figure anything out from those poems. By the time they finally reached a conclusion, they would realize that either the old king or the experts themselves had gone mad. At that moment, Lu Shu felt that the old king was a bully who teased the Luniverse folks for their ignorance. He would have been condemned and reprimanded if he were on Earth. Yu Dai diverted the topic. "How do you find my yard?" The Lord of Heaven demanded that no landlord's yards could be bigger than 7 acres. I've put in much effort and thoughts just to ensure that my yard does not exceed that limit. Take a look here. All the flat stones on the ground bear a story. This is how much thinking I invested in my yard. As for the Lins and the Zhangs, they disobeyed the rules set by the Lord and recklessly expanded their yard. Who knows when the Lord will slaughter their entire families? So serious? Lu Shu gasped in shock. He had not expected the hierarchy system to be so insanely strict in the Luniverse. They had rules over the size of their own yards, and the landlord's lives depended on someone else's moods as well. However, he felt like doubting the intelligence of the people here when he saw the whole collection of poems in the study. There were over 30 volumes of 300 poems from the king, over 40 pieces of complete collection of the king's poems, and over 20 complete collection of the king's articles, together with many other books and files. Yu Dai sighed in deep emotions. The king was fabulously imaginative. Some of the places he mentioned in his works are not from the Luniverse. Thus, we speculate that there must have been a beautiful land of the gods in the old king's mind. Yes. Sure. Absolutely, said Lu Shu. He was having serious thoughts over the sanity of the people of this world. There's another argument that the old king of gods was actually from another world, and he was missing his hometown when he wrote those lines, said Yu Dai. Some people believe that the king was very lonely. Lu Shu was stunned. This theory was actually possible. Could the old king be an earthling? How else could it explain the fact that the puppet masters had gone to Earth? This world was rich in spirit chi, yet it was called the exiled land. Honestly speaking, Lu Shu felt that the name was more apt for Earth. Footnotes. Ch 866 footnote 1. In Chinese, a weak, incapable boy with a pretty face is literally called one with a fair face. Chapter 867, Black Feather Army. Lu Shu's brains throbbed the moment he saw the full collection of poems. What should he do so that he would not expose himself? In fact, he could not even recite all the poems in one book, let alone so many of them. This was blatant cheating. Yet, Yu Dai was totally unaware of Lu Shu's thoughts. She turned to Lu Shu and asked, "What's your favorite poem by the old king?" "Well," mumbled Lu Shu, as he put on an awkward face. He thought to himself that they would have a collection of his very own poems if he had come to this world earlier. Meanwhile, Lu Shu was pondering whether the king that the puppet masters talked about was the same person as this old king of gods because it made sense, chronologically. The new king came into power 18 years ago, the same year in which the puppet masters arrived on Earth. Lu Shu would not buy it if this was a pure coincidence. Thus, it seemed that it was a wise choice to not admit his acquaintance with the puppet masters because they would not have fled to Earth if they were on good terms with the new king after all. Now that the new king had assumed power, what did the puppet masters mean when they said they were waiting for the king's return? Would the king return from Earth? The thought sent chills down Lu Shu's spine. He wanted to go back at once and warn Yeting that the king might be on Earth right now. Why don't you, Dai said, lowering her voice, you stay here tonight, so that we can analyze the poems together? Lu Shu let out a cold laugh under his breath. Was she expecting him to help her with comprehension questions after he had spent so many years on Earth studying Chinese literature? Wishful thinking. See you next time, said Lu Shu, as he left the room. From Yu Dai's distress, plus 299. Yu Dai did not force him to stay. Yet, she reminded Lu Shu before he stepped out, the borders are not safe recently. You and Zhang Weiyu can seek refuge from me if war really comes. Lu Shu did not look back as he pondered over her words. Zhang Weiyu once mentioned that the conflicts between Wen Zaifu and the West Lord of Heaven Duanmu Huangqi had escalated to the stage of war. Judging from Yu Dai's reaction today, it appeared that the landlords had just received the message from their superiors that they were on the brink of a war. In fact, Lu Shu had noticed that some of the slaves were pointing fingers at him from the roadside stalls, as if the entire Tianjing town knew that he was the Yu family master's gigolo. Lu Shu did not mind at all. He stared back at them in contempt, confident that they would learn sooner or later that a pretty face was all that counts. Truth be told, Lu Shu had never expected his appearance to be of use one day. Lu Shu walked towards his home on the countryside road. Now, he had become increasingly curious about this world. He wanted to know how a legendary king like this had fallen all of a sudden. Nevertheless, the fact that the puppet masters could escape meant that there were other cards in the universe. Lu Shu wondered if he could see a show of revenge staged by the puppet masters together with their newly returned king of gods, if he could go back to Earth later. In fact, he had developed a disposition towards the puppet masters, and the thought of befriending them was no longer that detestable. He also admired the old king for having such faithful people by his side. However, the more Lu Shu thought about it, the more he was convinced that the old king had probably remained on Earth because the puppet masters would have been guarding him in the universe, if he were there. Lu Shu decided to cast all the irrelevant thoughts aside and focus on his sword skills training, as at the end of the day his powers were the only thing that mattered the most. With enough practice, Lu Shu's progress in the control over his sword energy was apparent. He would no longer break a piece of firewood by mistake. Yet, there was one more problem that he was concerned about. He had no weapons at hand as his seal of lands remained tightly sealed. Night had come. Yet, Zhang Weiyu had yet to reach home, though he had said that he would be back before sunset. But Lu Shu was not worried either. During his practice, he spotted Zhang Weiyu limping on the road. At first, he thought Zhang Weiyu was bullied, but after he came close, Lu Shu realized that he was drunk. Zhang Weiyu blocked Lu Shu's hand when he wanted to offer support. Very drunk, Zhang Weiyu mumbled, "I, Zhang Weiyu, do not need anyone's help." Before he could finish his sentence, he tripped and collapsed on the floor. Lu Shu stared at him in silence as Zhang Weiyu struggled on the floor for a long moment but still did not manage to get up. Then, Zhang Weiyu looked at Lu Shu and pleaded. "Please lend me a hand." Lu Shu laughed and carried the man onto the clay kung. Then, he sat on the table and said, barely hiding his laughter, "Don't drink so much if you know you easily get drunk." "What do you know? I would never get drunk last time." Zhang Weiyu yelled angrily. Then, he lay flat on the kong and was absorbed into his own drunk world. Lu Shu did not answer. He looked at Zhang Weiyu quietly, wondering how much hardship he had gone through alone. He had to chew tree roots during the most difficult times of his life. He had to bear the humiliation from all of the slaves in town and was bullied as the slaves destroyed his crops. Yet, he persevered on, just for his worthless dignity. Lu Shu sighed. Who was he to chastise Zhang Weiyu's dignity as worthless, since he was equally obstinate himself? Why did you do that? Lu Shu asked. It was a question to Zhang Weiyu, and to himself too. I'm waiting, replied Zhang Weiyu, who was lying on his bed with his eyes closed. Then, he laughed, waving his arms and legs. But my patience is wearing out. Lu Shu was stunned. He kept quiet and waited for Zhang Weiyu to continue his speech. Zhang Weiyu said, Gone are the golden old days. Today, I went to visit an old friend, only to realize that he had ended himself on a rope in his house. I pushed open his door and saw a half-eaten tree root on the table. I don't blame him. I don't blame anyone. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Before Zhang Weiyu left the house earlier that day, Lu Shu gave him some boxes of desserts as a house visiting gift. Zhang Weiyu thanked him wholeheartedly, as if Lu Shu had done him a great favor. Zhang Weiyu also said that he owed Lu Shu for that. At that moment, Lu Shu was simply confused and thought Zhang Weiyu was being too dramatic. Yet, he did not expect him to be paying his last visit to an old friend. However, his friend had left this world before he could have a taste of the desserts. Lu Shu thought that Zhang Weiyu's friend must be a man of dignity who would rather die than to be a slave. After a long silence, Lu Shu asked, What are you waiting for? Zhang Weiyu was dead drunk. But he suddenly laughed hysterically after hearing Lu Shu's question. Then, he said, Everyone under the throne is. In the next instant Zhang Weiyu bolted upright alertedly, squinting his eyes dangerously at Lu Shu. He became sober at once. Why did you ask that? Suddenly Lu Shu sprang into movement and wrenched Zhang Weiyu onto the floor. Almost at the same time, an arrow punctured the clay wall and pierced through the bed where Zhang Weiyu was lying. The black feather on its tail was still shivering due to the impact. Zhang Weiyu's face turned ashen. Duanmu Huangqi's Black Feather Army. Chapter 868, Explosive Power. Lu Shu knew that a war might occur here, but he did not expect it to come this quickly. He looked at the quivering arrow and tried to estimate their power. Although the walls of the mud brick house were weak, not everyone would be able to shoot an arrow through. After the black arrow pierced through the walls, it could hit the Kong and still have surplus energy. Before Lu Shu could finish analyzing, Zhang Weiyu suddenly said, It's a rank 4 expert from the Black Feather Army. The arrow came from the northwest direction. They should be the first batch of scouts. They came from the mountains. Under typical circumstances, scouts from the Black Feather Army are made up of 1 rank 4 and 4 rank 5 soldiers. They are all elites of the army. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. He looked at Zhang Weiyu. From the beginning, Lu Shu knew that he was not an ordinary person. Although he had given up halfway, he could explain so many things just from 1 arrow. He already knew from the very beginning. Before Lu Shu could speak, Zhang Weiyu crawled on the ground towards the door. Let's hurry up and leave. They are still 99 kilometers away. They will not rashly approach us. When we go out, we have to speed up. There might be people on guard who are waiting for us to go out. This arrow might not have been shot to kill someone. They want to force us to flee in panic. Since there are people on guard outside, why are we still going out? Lu Shu asked. If we don't go now, we won't be able to escape when the Black Feather Army comes. There is a narrow chance that we can survive. But even then, there is still a chance, said Zhang Weiyu hurriedly. Lu Shu suddenly realized that Zhang Weiyu kept his cool even among the chaos. This was not something an ordinary person could do. The next moment, Zhang Weiyu turned and said to Lu Shu, You go out first. I'll follow behind you. Lu Shu's expression darkened. Are you trying to bluff me? Whoever goes out first will be shot first. There will not be many people on guard outside. Perhaps after I am shot by the first arrow, you will seize the chance while they are reloading to run away. am I right? Since we are both trapped here, what use is there for you to follow behind me? Zhang Weiyu was shocked. You're actually quite smart. But as Lu Shu was speaking, Zhang Weiyu pushed Lu Shu towards the door. He tried to push Lu Shu out to bear the brunt, but there was nothing.
Ha! Ha!
Lu Shu laughed coldly. Suddenly, Lu Shu heard the sound of something flying through the wind. Bam! There was another big hole in the mud brick wall behind them. 4 black arrows pierced through the wall in succession. Thankfully, Lu Shu reacted quickly and was able to dodge them. There is a person in the Black Feather Army Scout troops who is able to determine your position through hearing. Do not stand in the same spot. Zhang Weiyu warned. But the next moment, Zhang Weiyu gasped in shock. Lu Shu suddenly bent over. His robust body was full of strength, like a stretched bow. Then, he took a big stride forward and leaped out. In a flash, a black arrow landed on the ground behind Lu Shu. The guard from the Black Feather Army had missed. Zhang Weiyu swore that throughout his entire life, he had seen very few people who were able to fully use every bit of their strength like Lu Shu. The scout on guard outside the house was a rank 5. Zhang Weiyu had not seen Lu Shu actually train, but from that eruption of power, Zhang Weiyu could see that Lu Shu was not a rank 5. In this game of chess with a great disparity in strength, Lu Shu had made a guard, who had been aiming for a long time, miss. He was puzzled. One would only be able to use their strength to such an extent after they had progressed to a certain level and undergone delicate exploration. Was an ordinary person able to completely use their strength? Impossible. This was not something a low-leveled practitioner could achieve. But Lu Shu was a low-leveled practitioner. But Zhang Weiyu had no time to think about this. The moment the arrow missed, Zhang Weiyu leaped out as well. The guard was reloading his bow. If he did not go out now, Zhang Weiyu would not be able to escape. Lu Shu did not run on the dirt road. Instead, he hid in a field beside the road. The crops, which were half his height, was perfect protection for him to hide in at night. Zhang Weiyu made the same choice. The scout troops from the Black Feather Army, dressed in leather armor, silently surrounded the field. No one spoke. They all had serious expressions on their faces. They did not expect themselves to fail. They were just in front of them and were not even worth mentioning. But they had failed. The 5 of them carried their arrows on their backs. They drew their padao one from their waists at the same time and charged towards the field. The wind blew, full of murderous intent. These 2 slaves had to die here. If not, the Black Feather Army's plan would fail. They had thought that Lu Shu and Zhang Weiyu were slaves. This was understandable, since there were not many peasants now. Zhang Weiyu bent over and ran wildly among the crops. He was about to cry. Everyone understood one thing. When there was a beast chasing you, you do not have to run faster than the beast. You just had to run faster than your companions, but Lu Shu ran very quickly. But to be honest, Zhang Weiyu did not blame Lu Shu. When such danger came, one would not sacrifice their life for a person they had met under a month ago. If Lu Shu really did, Zhang Weiyu would scold him for being an idiot. Zhang Weiyu knew that he would not be able to run away. He was an ordinary person, but rank 4 and 5 practitioners were chasing him. Suddenly, Zhang Weiyu felt a sense of relief, as if he would be freed. The 5 Black Feather Army scouts got closer and closer. They were 20 meters away from one another and quickly searched the field. Unlike Zhang Weiyu and Lu Shu, who had to bend over and run, they were very fast. At that moment, Zhang Weiyu was suddenly dumbfounded. He realized that he might have passed by a shadow lying on the ground. Wait. Zhang Weiyu was dumbfounded. That was Lu Shu, right? Why would he be there? The Black Feather Army approached at a high speed. Zhang Weiyu slowly gasped. The moment a soldier from the Black Feather Army reached Lu Shu used a tree branch like a sword and attacked with a mysterious form. It was as if he was about to pierce the heavens. The young man was full of explosive power. He looked very beautiful under the moonlight. It was as if he was using every bit of strength to the extreme, like a thunderbolt. The tree branch, which seemed weak and fragile, slashed the gap in the leather armor of the Black Feather Army soldier. Zhang Weiyu felt that Lu Shu's hand had only quivered slightly. This energy had then been transferred to the end of the tree branch. There was moonlight and there was blood. A young man had used a tree branch to kill. It was as beautiful as a painting. Chapter 869, Emergence of Sword Energy. Zhang Weiyu did not expect Lu Shu to hide and kill people. This field was very large. If Lu Shu took the chance while Zhang Weiyu was being killed and ran away, he might be able to survive. Furthermore, he did not expect Lu Shu to be able to kill someone. What was Lu Shu holding? He was holding a tree branch. If an expert killed someone with a tree branch, it would still make sense. It was said that the North Lord of Heaven did not use weapons to kill slaves. He would use anything available. But he was a rank 1 expert. When news of this spread, everyone was amazed. How about Lu Shu? He was a small practitioner who had not even reached rank 5. Yet, he was able to kill someone with a tree branch. This was too puzzling. It was so puzzling that Zhang Weiyu could not even believe his eyes. The tree branch slashed the gap in the leather armor. He then pierced the chin of the soldier and continued going upwards, killing him. The tree branch was like a sword. Although this young man was not powerful, it was as if he was the best in swordplay. This was very strange. It was like a 3-year-old child with the knowledge of a scholar. Not only was Zhang Weiyu dumbfounded, the rest of the scouts silently looked over. Then they rapidly surrounded them and went for the kill. They held their padao at the most appropriate angle to strike. It was perfect. The padao slashed through the crops in the moonlight. Although they did not use much strength, the crops were easily chopped off diagonally. These were the most elite troops. The distance between the 4 of them was just nice. When they approached Lu Shu, they were like a net inching closer and closer to him. The young man remained calm and composed. He took the padao from the corpse and threw it to Zhang Weiyu in front of everyone. Lu Shu said, "I cannot defeat them. You do it." The 4 soldiers turned to look at Zhang Weiyu at the same time. They pointed their blades at him. Zhang Weiyu was shocked. What the? From Zhang Weiyu's distress, plus 999. But at that moment, Lu Shu took the chance while the 4 soldiers were looking at Zhang Weiyu to draw another tree branch from his waist. He charged towards the soldier closest to him as if he was a hunter. Attack. The strength of the 4 soldiers had been dispersed. They did not know exactly how strong Zhang Weiyu was and had to fight in order to determine his combat power. 2 soldiers faced Zhang Weiyu, while the other 2 faced Lu Shu. Lu Shu was already in front of the 2 soldiers and he could even see the stitches on their leather armor. The 2 soldiers took a small step forward. The ground sank as they stepped. Then, a padao was aimed at Lu Shu's head, while the other padao was aimed at Lu Shu on an angle. They trapped Lu Shu and prevented him from moving around. All the muscles in Lu Shu's body suddenly grew taut. It was as if they formed a sculpture instead of the human body. When the 2 blades attacked, Lu Shu stood still. Suddenly, he squatted down. Then, the moment the 2 blades brushed past him, it was as if reality had been defied again. He struck with his tree branch. For some reason, Zhang Weiyu felt that the tree branch was like a sword. Its movements coincided with the way of the Tao. This was swordplay. Zhang Weiyu was shocked. Lu Shu had showcased the way of the Tao. As long as typical practitioners had techniques, aptitude and resources, success in cultivation would be achieved naturally. The higher their aptitude, the faster the rate of cultivation. But the way of the Tao was on another level. This was a sign that one had learned effectively. One would only have the hope of achieving rank 1 if they had entered the Tao. This was the same as on Earth. Back then, Chen Bailey desperately wanted to take Lu Xiaoyu as his student as he had seen the importance of Lu Xiaoyu's aptitude. The higher one's aptitude, the easier it was for them to integrate with the sword. Some people stopped at Class B or Rank 2 for this reason. Under the moonlight, the tree branch in the young man's hands was like a pupa that was slowly breaking. It was as if it could no longer bear the thunderous strength. Then, the tree branch broke cleanly into pieces. The tree branch turned into dust, but the sword energy dazzled under the moonlight. It was as if a butterfly had broken out of its pupa. Zhang Weiyu was dumbfounded. This is my first time seeing sword energy emerge from a tree branch by a rank 6 practitioner. How frightening. A rank 6 practitioner had produced sword energy from a tree branch. The sword energy slashed the necks of the two soldiers with great ease. Blood started to spurt out from their aortas. Then, they slowly leaned back and fell to the ground. Zhang Weiyu felt that tonight, a lot of his knowledge had been subverted. He no longer dared to look down upon rank 6 practitioners in the future. But after some thought, he understood that there were strong rank 6 practitioners in the world, and Lu Shu was one of them. Where did this freak come from? But he did not know that to Lu Shu, who was able to kill 7 Class Bs in 8 hours, strength was important, but it did not mean everything. If rank 3s appeared tonight, Lu Shu might be scared. After all, his life was more important. If he did not have sword energy, Lu Shu would never dare to kill the scout troops from the Black Feather Army. Sword energy could kill people, but it could also scare people. But there were no ifs. Now, the 2 remaining soldiers from the Black Feather Army could not kill with the same determination as before. There was hesitation in their eyes. Lu Shu, who seemed like an expert, stood in the field with his hands by his side. He stared at them. At that moment, Zhang Weiyu took the padao and smiled. He slowly walked towards the soldiers. Now, it's my turn. The 2 soldiers turned and ran. Lu Shu caught up to him. Zhang Weiyu shouted, "Don't let them run away." The 2 soldiers quickly ran away. The crops in the field did not slow them down. With Lu Shu's physique as a rank 6, he could only dream of catching up to them. After the 2 black shadows disappeared, Zhang Weiyu's legs became jelly and he almost fell to the ground. I was so scared. Lu Shu laughed cheerily. I couldn't tell. You seem quite reliable at the most crucial moments. Zhang Weiyu thought about it and said, thanks. No problem. Your acting was quite useful. You scared them away. Heaven saves those who save themselves, said Lu Shu with a smile. To be honest, it was fortunate that the 2 soldiers had run away. If not, they would be a pain to deal with. There was 1 rank 4 and 1 rank 5. Although Lu Shu could use sword energy and could kill rank 5s, rank 4s were another story. Sword energy could kill rank 4s, but they were very fast. Before he could even deliver a blow, they might be able to attack several times. But, if he ambushed a rank 4, he might be able to kill them, right? Chapter 870, A Fall in the Pit, A Gain in Your Wit. Zhang Weiyu squatted on the ground and panted. He had used too much physical strength while running. Thankfully, he ate well for the past few days. If not, he might not even have been able to run. Lu Shu looked at Zhang Weiyu. You're not a normal peasant. Zhang Weiyu laughed. You're not a normal slave either. Lu Shu's expression darkened. Why did he feel as if Zhang Weiyu was always scolding others? What do we do now? Lu Shu looked at Zhang Weiyu. The Black Feather Army is here. How long will the rest of the troops take to come? Under typical circumstances, there will be a distance of about 15 kilometers between the scout troops and the vanguard of the main forces. But usually, the Black Feather Army will not kill people, unless the army is behind and wants to capture people to understand the situation in the area. Zhang Weiyu analyzed. We have to hurry up and run now. But there won't be too many people in the vanguard. The fields are not very important in terms of their strategy either. Come. Since you saved my life, follow me and you will escape this war. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. After Zhang Weiyu finished speaking, he walked towards the forest in the south. He curiously asked, wait, shouldn't we tell the others in town about the army? Zhang Weiyu shook his head. Which war doesn't have fatalities? Furthermore, if the people in town die, then so be it. This is a game of chess among the lords of heaven. Who cares about the people below? We are ants to them. Do you not have any feelings for this place? What will happen to your crops if they come here? Lu Shu could not understand. My crops are not fully grown yet. They will definitely leave them as they are. They want to capture this territory for a long time. When they do, they will need peasants and slaves to plant crops, right? The war has nothing to do with us. As long as we escape the first wave and return after they have seized this territory, we will be able to plant crops again like before, said Zhang Weiyu with indifference. Lu Shu understood. The aim of this war was to kill slave owners and aristocrats, and expand their territory. On the other hand, peasants and ordinary slaves were at no harm. The land was still more important. This was like the change of leadership in a workplace. No matter what, they still needed people to work. They would not kill everyone. This was not hatred between two races, to the point that they would not stop until they had killed everyone. Even the peasants and ordinary slaves were used to this. According to Zhang Weiyu, the previous war had lasted for over 10 years. All the unimportant people who had survived more or less had survival knowledge. No, Lu Shu shook his head. Telling everyone is not a difficult thing. I feel that we should at least tell the Yu family. He deliberately tried to avoid Yu Dai. He even pretended not to understand Zhang Weiyu's hint. But since he had come here, he had relied on the food that she had sent so that he could train without a worry. He should tell her that there was danger. He would not lose anything either. When Zhang Weiyu saw that Lu Shu was full of justice, he said, then go. I will take my leave first. Zhang Weiyu then turned to leave, but he did not move. Go away, Zhang Weiyu was speechless. Where are you going? Lu Shu laughed buoyantly. Come with me. I know that you definitely have a place to hide from the war. After we're done, bring me there. Lu Shu would not let him go. Zhang Weiyu was shrewd, but he was not a bad person. Lu Shu needed him. If he had a unique place where he could hide, Lu Shu could hide there and continue to train his swordplay. By the time the battle was over, his abilities might progress rapidly. Lu Shu was not willing to participate in this battle. He was just a visitor. No matter how many people died, it had nothing to do with him. Thus, it was only right to hide with Zhang Weiyu after informing Yu Dai of the danger. He could not let go of Zhang Weiyu. Now, Zhang Weiyu did not even have the physique of an ordinary person. He was a few hundred meters behind Lu Shu and looked as if he had nothing else to live for. His legs formed a path behind him. If the Black Feather Army was behind, this path would be like the arrows. Later on, when Zhang Weiyu realized that he could not run away, he gave up. He walked into the town and panted as he followed behind Lu Shu. It's just some food. Don't tell me that you've fallen for her. Don't believe what happens in novels. Those things fool little children. Although your swordplay is not bad, but have you thought about your future? Peasants can only become slaves for aristocrats. Even if you are amazing, you will still be a slave for the South Lord of Heaven, Wen Zaifu. Your social classes are different. She will not marry a slave. Lu Shu asked curiously. I have no feelings for her. But didn't you say that if you developed your own techniques, you would become outstanding? That was when the old king of gods was still alive. No such thing exists now. The slave owners and aristocrats are still fighting over territory. Will they have the time to care about you? Furthermore, how long do you need to train for? 10 years? Or 20 years? Or even longer? There are too many variables here. Zhang Weiyu mocked him. If the Black Feather Army comes here, the whole town is done for. You won't even have the time to think about escaping. Lu Shu expressionlessly pointed the padao at Zhang Weiyu. Nonsense. What are you saying? Hurry up and say ba. Ba. From Zhang Weiyu's distress, plus 666. What was this person? Zhang Weiyu said softly, even if your swordplay is good, can you kill 1,000 people with one sword? Lu Shu glanced at him. Zhang Weiyu might not believe him, but he had done it before. Suddenly, Lu Shu heard the galloping of horses. The Yu family was about to leave, with Yu Dai in the lead. When Yu Dai saw Lu Shu, she was dumbfounded. She seemed pleasantly surprised. Why are you here? Have you come here to find me? Lu Shu was also dumbfounded. Where are you going? I received orders from the guards to patrol the borders, said Yu Dai. The guard was the rank 3 aristocrat at the fields. Don't go, said Lu Shu. But he did not know how to explain this. He looked at Zhang Weiyu. Uncle, please explain. Zhang Weiyu smiled. He knew that this young man had the ability to quote out of context. He was no match for him. A fall in the pit, a gain in your wit. From Zhang Weiyu's distress, plus 481. At that moment, Zhang Weiyu heard the sound of horses galloping in the distance. There was also the drumming of war drums. He could even visualize the pitch-black flag of the Black Feather Army fluttering in the wind.
Oh no.
The guards have revealed our position. The Black Feather Army is definitely trying to avoid a long delay and have decided to attack. They want to seize the opportunity while the town is unprepared to make a quick and decisive victory. Zhang Weiyu was shocked.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens.